At 12:47 in the morning, a fire broke out on the ground floor of SBG2, a five-story data center operated by OVH Cloud in Strasbourg, France. OVH is Europe's largest cloud hosting provider and the third largest in the world. The fire started in the UPS room. Two uninterruptible power supply units that had recently been repaired overheated catastrophically. The batteries ignited. Toxic fumes from lead-acid batteries filled the power room, making it impossible for firefighters to attack the flames at the source. Within hours, SBG2 was completely destroyed. 4 of the 12 rooms in the neighboring SBG1 building were also gutted. 100 firefighters with 44 vehicles, including a pump boat called in from the Rhine, fought the blaze for 6 hours before bringing it under control. When the smoke cleared, 3.6 million websites across 464,000 domain names were offline. Customer data stored on those servers was gone. Not corrupted, not temporarily unavailable, permanently destroyed. The video game Rust lost its entire dataset with no path to recovery. Government websites went dark. Cryptocurrency exchanges, chess servers, news outlets, and telecom companies all lost services. Over 140 customers filed a class action lawsuit seeking more than 10 million euros in damages. The investigation revealed something that shocked the industry. The OVH Strasbourg facility had no automatic fire suppression system in the affected building, no gas suppression, no sprinklers. The building used shipping containers stacked with site-built construction between them, with plywood covering the container floors. The natural convection cooling design, which used vertical airflow to cool the servers efficiently, acted as a chimney once the fire took hold, accelerating the vertical spread of flames through the entire structure. This was not an unavoidable disaster. This was a preventable failure of basic fire engineering, and it changed the standards of the entire industry. Fire is the most common physical threat to a data center. Electrical equipment runs 24 hours a day under heavy load. UPS batteries, power distribution units, cable insulation, and cooling motors all present ignition risks. The question is not whether a fire could start. The question is how fast you detect it and how you stop it before it reaches the servers. The first line of defense is VESDA, Very Early Smoke Detection Apparatus. VESDA systems continuously sample air through a network of pipes distributed across the ceiling. They can detect microscopic smoke particles, often before a human would notice anything. A VESDA system can identify a developing fire 10 to 30 minutes before flames become visible. If VESDA triggers an alarm and the fire develops, the second line of defense activates gas-based fire suppression. In a data center, you cannot spray water on live electrical equipment. Instead, clean agent gas systems flood the affected zone. The two most common agents are FM200 and Novec N1230. FM200 works by absorbing heat from the fire at the molecular level, breaking the chemical chain reaction that sustains combustion. A full room discharge takes roughly 10 seconds. The gas leaves no residue and does not damage the hardware. Novec 1230 works similarly, but has a significantly lower global warming potential, which is why it is increasingly specified in new builds. It is a fluid stored as a liquid that vaporizes on discharge, absorbing heat and suppressing combustion without displacing enough oxygen to be dangerous to any personnel still evacuating. In non-IT areas like loading docks, offices, and generator rooms, pre-action sprinkler systems are used. Pre-action means the pipes are dry until two independent triggers are activated. a smoke detector, and a thermal sensor. This prevents accidental water discharge from a broken sprinkler head, which in a data center could cause as much damage as a fire. After the OVH fire, the industry response was immediate. OVH's replacement facility, SBG5, was built with automatic sprinklers, and the battery banks were relocated outside the building entirely. The lesson was expensive but clear. Fire suppression is not optional, and battery rooms must be physically separated from IT equipment. Water damage in data centers comes from two directions: external flooding and internal leaks. External flooding is managed primarily through site selection. Reputable data center operators avoid floodplains, evaluate historical flood data, and design drainage infrastructure to handle extreme rainfall events. Ground floor server halls in flood-prone areas use raised slab construction or elevate critical equipment above the potential flood line. But the more common water risk is internal. Cooling systems circulate thousands of litres of chilled water through pipes running above and around the server halls. A burst pipe, a failed valve, or a condensation leak can put water directly onto live equipment. And the defense here is leak detection systems. Sensor cables run beneath the raised floor and along every pipe route. These cables detect moisture at any point along their length and trigger an alarm within seconds, allowing operators to isolate the affected pipe section before water reaches the servers. In critical facilities, chilled water pipes running above IT equipment are fitted with drip trays that catch any leak and route it to a drain before it can fall onto the racks below. Data centers in seismically active zones face a unique engineering challenge. Server racks are tall, heavy, and top-loaded. Without seismic restraint, a moderate earthquake can topple racks like dominoes, severing power and data connections and causing catastrophic hardware damage. The solution is seismic bracing and base isolation. Server racks in earthquake zones are bolted to the floor and braced to overhead cable tray structures. The bracing is designed to resist lateral forces in multiple directions simultaneously. Cable connections use flexible jumpers with enough slack to absorb movement without disconnecting. In high-risk zones like Japan and the US West Coast, entire data center buildings are constructed on base isolation systems. The building sits on elastomeric bearings or friction pendulum isolators that absorb seismic energy and allow the structure to move independently of the ground beneath it. The servers inside experience a fraction of the ground acceleration. Raised floors in seismically designed data centers use pedestal systems rated for the expected seismic zone, with additional bracing at the perimeters and around heavy equipment. The floor tiles themselves are held in place to prevent them from displacing during a tremor and blocking airflow paths. Japan runs some of the most seismically resilient data centers in the world. During the 2011 Tohoku earthquake, a magnitude 9.0 event, several major data centers in Tokyo maintained continuous operations throughout the shaking and the days of aftershocks that followed. The hardware did not move, the cooling did not fail, the power held. That did not happen by accident. It happened because the buildings were engineered for exactly that scenario. Every defense I have described so far is about preventing damage at a single facility, but the ultimate protection against any disaster is making sure no single facility matters enough to take you down. Geographic redundancy means replicating data and services across multiple physically separate locations. If a data center in Strasbourg burns to the ground, the workload fails over to a facility in Paris, Frankfurt, or London within seconds. no data loss, no service interruption. This is what OVH's affected customers did not have. Many of them were running on a single site with no off-site backup. When SBG2 was destroyed, their data was destroyed with it. Hyperscale operators like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon replicate data across a minimum of 3 geographically separated availability zones within each region. The loss of an entire facility, not just a single server, but an entire building, is a planned for scenario that triggers automatic failover with no customer impact. That level of resilience is not cheap. It requires 3 times the storage capacity, high bandwidth interconnects between sites, and sophisticated orchestration software. But for any business where data loss is unacceptable, it is the only real answer. The OVH fire was the data center industry's worst physical disaster in a decade. It destroyed a building, wiped out customer data, triggered lawsuits, and forced the entire industry to re-examine assumptions about fire engineering, battery safety, and customer backup obligations. But it also proved a point that data center engineers have always known. The building is not the product. The data is the product. And if your data only exists in one place, it does not exist at all. Fire suppression stops the flames, seismic bracing stops the shaking, leak detection stops the water, but redundancy stops the disaster from mattering. That is how data centers survive disasters, not by being indestructible, by being replaceable.